Now I got to tell you, when Scott walked in the room, the first thing he looked at was cameras and said, "They're following me everywhere." Well, the reality is, I don't think he's going to get an announcement out of someone like Scott tonight, and you're certainly not getting an announcement out of someone like me tonight. This night is about Joe Sweeney. And that's really what it should be about. It should be about the youth in the Republican Party in New Hampshire showing leadership. And I think that's why Scott Brown is here. Scott Brown made a difference in Massachusetts when no one thought a Republican could get elected in Massachusetts. He took that truck and it parked outside, and he drove, and he drove, and he drove, and he showed what leadership is about in this country, and he showed it to the people of Massachusetts. He's got a bright future ahead of him, and I think he's going to tell you tonight how the Republican Party has a bright future. Scott Brown. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Senator, and thank you for your leadership on the budget. I'm aware of what you all did, and he's right. Massachusetts raised their taxes $500 million, raised the gas, cigarette, and computer software type of tax 6.25%. It's chasing businesses out of Massachusetts, making it more difficult, certainly for people to grow and expand. There is a role for government, I've always said, but sometimes government needs to know when to get out of the way. And people say, "Scott, why are you here? Why are you in New Hampshire?" Well, first of all, I'm 9th generation in New Hampshire. So there's nothing unusual. My mom is in Hampton. My sister and all my nieces and nephews are in Portsmouth. I have other cousins here. I have a place in Rye for 20+ years. So it's not a stretch. But the thing that intrigued me the most, Senator, just to know, and I know you have to go somewhere, so don't feel like you're going to hear me talk. I have a wife as well, okay? And I know it's just, honey, you're being at home at what time? So please, if you want to go, you go. When Joe contacted me and said, I'm a state representative in New Hampshire and I'm running for re-election, I said, "Oh, that's great. Great, congratulations. How old are you?" He said, "I'm 19. I'm like, "Excuse me?" And that was what intrigued me the most, is the fact that we have a 19-year-old state representative. I was in the area, certainly. It's not a stretch to come down, a half an hour from where we're staying for the summer. But the thing I found most exciting is that you have somebody of that young age who wants to get involved and make a difference. It reminds me of probably me and many others in this room who have always wanted to play a role, whether it's in your school, your fraternity, your sorority, your hometown, your state, your country. Everybody has found that activism is an important role. And you can have activism in a good way. You can be active. You can go and make a difference on a whole host of issues. Fighting for the people here in Salem and in New Hampshire is an important thing. I can tell you firsthand that people are tired of reaching in their pockets every single second of every single day and giving more and more of your hard-earned money to the government. They're tired of it. So what you did here in New Hampshire dealing with the budget was very important. It makes you, quite frankly, competitive, taking a lot of money and businesses away from Massachusetts, and they better wake up. If they don't, then it's going to obviously create a very different dramatics, not only along the border towns, but especially around the border towns. So I wanted to come here to congratulate you and wish you well and do whatever I can. I travel throughout the country, talking to people, talking to groups, trying to bring awareness as to who we are as Republicans. And I got to be honest with you, there's a difference between a New Hampshire, Massachusetts Republican, just in geography alone, obviously, but just in the beliefs. There's a difference between a South Carolina Republican and a Massachusetts Republican. Believe it or not, I know you're shocked. But the one thing we have is that we care very deeply about our Constitution. We care very deeply about our families and our national security, our debt, our deficit, the taxes, the spending. The way that we protect our families from homegrown and other types of terrorists coming in to try to hurt us and kill us. I think those are the core values that many Republicans have. And quite frankly, many Americans have, because we are Americans first. We're not Democrats, Republicans, Independents. We're Americans first. And the thing that I find most wonderful is that when our backs are against the wall, we kind of forget about the party labels and we just get the job done. And that's evidenced by your vote on the budget. The fact that you had 96% of the House members come on board and say, what's good for New Hampshire? What's good for the people of this great state? Well, in the United States Senate, I can tell you what, I was and still am very disappointed about the dysfunctionality of the members of Congress right now. You know, they'll show up for a ribbon cutting and they'll say, I'm doing great, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But then you check their voting record, and they're voting with their party 99% of the time. They're voting for things like Obamacare, or they're writing letters, you know, to the IRS asking them to look into conservative groups, and then, you know, oh, I didn't have anything to do with it, really. I mean, there's so many things that if you check the record and you check the facts, you find out, in fact, they're not who they say they are. And that's troubling. And more importantly, when, in fact, you go and try to get something done, what do? They look at party labels. Oh, you're a Republican. Oh, you're from New England. Oh, you're from this. I'll tell you what. I never realized that going down to Washington that there was a litmus test that all Republicans are apparently the same. I guess there's like a card apparently that you have to fill out and say, well, I believe in this, 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 this. Oh, well, you're a real Republican. Really? Let me tell you something. I'll put my Republican credentials up against anybody when it comes to national security and taxes and spending and dealing with our country's very real homegrown and outside the country threats, dealing with the incredible deficit and debt that we have right now. I'll put it up against anybody's. When it comes to some of the social issues, I keep an open mind. I'm a Massachusetts Republican. Now, restoring trust in government, how appropriate is that? Because I can tell you right now that there is a lack of trust between the taxpayers of this state and every other state in the union and the federal government. When you know that we're $17 trillion in debt right now, folks, guys, look up how many zeros that is and how are you all going to pay that? Because it's not me. I'm pretty much, I'm 53 years old. I'm going to get retirement at some point. It's you. It's you and your kids. And until we, /you/all of us work together to get that deficit under control and that national debt under control, we're going to be in real trouble. We're going to be in trouble as to how we deal with the terrorist threats, how we deal with world problems, how we deal with just helping people when they're in trouble, whether it's through a natural disaster or some type of other disaster. We're going to be in trouble. We can't keep printing money. We just can't. So when you look at how do we get out of this, how do we restore the trust in government? Well, the first way you do it is by actually talking, getting along, working together for the betterment of our country, acting as Americans first and recognizing that we're in a financial emergency. The president gave a speech today, on the economy. Did you know that? What did he say? Nothing. Said nothing. He says, we're not working fast enough, the people aren't working, the economy's not. No kidding. No kidding. We have the highest corporate tax rate in the industrialized world. We have more regulations, many of which your senator here in New Hampshire has voted for the most regulations that I'm aware of. Same thing in Massachusetts. They just keep adding more and more and more regulation. There's a complete lack of regulatory and tax certainty with individuals and businesses. And as a result, what do? You know what? I'm done. I'm selling. I'm moving. I'm not going to hire. I'm not going to grow. I'm not going to expand. You got Obamacare. I didn't vote for it. I voted against it. Your senator voted for it. Massachusetts senators voted for it. It was rammed through the United States Senate through parliamentary chicanery, basically. They used parliamentary maneuvers to make sure that I and others who wanted to do it better and maybe solve problems like we did in Massachusetts. Listen, our health care plan is not perfect. Costs are out of control, but you have the A to Z coverage. You have the ability to get coverage up to 25 years old. You have things in there that are important. We want people to get coverages. We want people to get and stay healthy. Of course we do, but we don't want this one-size-fits-all government approach, and if you don't like it, we're going to fine you, and we're going to sick the IRS after you and all that. Really? What kind of country is that? That's not the America that I'm aware of. So how do you restore the trust in government? Well, you tell government to get out of your way and let you do the people's business and let you do your jobs and live your lives and raise your families and continue to grow and expand and do the things that make us as Americans great. We live in the greatest country in the world, folks. And right now we're in a little bit of trouble. We can't continue, as I said, to spend. We can't continue to disregard the will of the people when it comes to a lot of the things that matter to people. What do we care about? Debt, deficit, taxes, spending, jobs, national security, energy. That's it. That's it. They want us to respect the Constitution. They want us to work within the framework that our founding fathers gave us. We understand that there are differences and there are things that happen that come up unexpectedly that we have to deal with. We know that. And we recognize that there is a place for government. We're very thankful when the government is there to help, to hold out that helping hand. I can assure you that I know that firsthand. And a lot of you have heard about, today with my brother, my half-brother. I mean, you never know what's happening, but I do, and I hope you get my book. It's over there. I'm going to help Joe out with some of the proceeds. It's $10. But you'll understand, my mom and dad were married and divorced 4 times each. Okay? I know, it's funny. I know. I lived in 17 houses by the time I was 18. My mom was on welfare. I understand that it was there as a safety net for her. Not as a lifelong entitlement, but as a safety net, an effort to get by, to make it to that next paycheck, to that next step in our lives. I grew up in Holby. You remember what it was like. His brother and I went to high school together. We played basketball together. We were like brothers. Spent all the time. I used to mooch free food off him every day I could. So there is a role for government. And when it works well. When it's helping people. But when it's trying to push its will on the freedoms and democracy that we have and the ability for us to lead our lives as we so choose. Live free and die. Live free or die. Right? Live free or die. Really? Is that still happening up here? Is it happening in the country? Yes and no. In some areas it is still. You still have more freedoms than most here in New Hampshire. I love riding my motorcycle without my helmet, I will tell you that. I do like that. But how do we restore trust? Well, one of the ways we restore trust is to have you come out on a night that the Patriots are playing in the rain, which it was doing, and helping a young man like this. That's the first way you can restore trust, to send new, young, bright people into government to try to make a difference. Because we do live in the greatest country in the world, and it's not perfect. Democracy is messy, folks. Democracy is messy, okay? It's messy. It's supposed to be messy. It's not perfect. So you send somebody like Joe into the New Hampshire House of Representatives to work with people who are, I'm presuming a senior, can't imagine there's anyone younger there, to teach them about the youth in New Hampshire and the youth in America and what the challenges and expectations are to learn and grow and vice versa. That's a good thing. So people say, why are you here? Why are you here? I'm here because we need good people like Joe Sweeney in politics today. It's pretty simple. If I could travel around the country, which I'm doing as much as I can to help other candidates, young and old, to bring a common sense back to politics, bring that common sense of working together, solving problems, not adhering to a litmus test, not being the same old, looking about your party's political interests and your personal interests first, but our country's interests first. If I can go around the country and do that, then I'm making a difference. And I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't want to be in the United States Senate trying to bridge that gap, because right now in the Senate, there are extremes on the left and the right. And in the middle, guess what? Very few of us. Very few of us left. I'm gone. Olympia Snow's gone. Richard Lugar, Ken Conrad, Joe Lieberman, gone. People that bridge that gap between the extremes on the left and the right, they're all gone. So what do you have? You have gridlock. You have Congress with an 11% approval rating. 11%. Really? If you went there, it would go up to like 15 or 20. So I'd be misleading you if I said I didn't miss it. But I don't miss the dysfunctional way that they don't do their jobs. That they're looking out. You heard that Obamacare is clicking in. Obviously, you see the medical device tax, you see Police, fire, teachers are having to pay another $10,000. The unions are now complaining like they didn't know. They're the ones that pushed the hardest, and now they want a special exemption. Well, in Congress, they say, oh my gosh, we're going to pass this, but do they adhere to it and stick to it? Well, they found out that their staff is, in fact, subjected to it, so what do? They don't go through the usual appropriations process. They have the president do something, through executive order or some type of administrative order to give them a little extra money to help pay for it. Did you get that? No. Did you get that check in the mail? I guess a couple of people did. They got a check because we saved some money somehow, but I don't know anybody who received that check. I know people who are writing plenty of checks to the federal and state government, and it's about time we say enough. So you say enough by keeping leaders in your Senate here and making sure that you have that check and balance. They don't have it in Massachusetts. We have 3 senators out of 40, Republican 3. We just had 1 retire. We have 32 out of 160. The governor in every constitutional office is Democrat. There's absolutely no check and balance, and what do you have? You've had 3 speakers indicted, 1's in jail. 4 senators indicted, 1 or 2 are still in jail. A housing scandal, a probation scandal, a treasury scandal, a crime lab scandal, an EBT card mess with no accountability whatsoever. And what happens? They just kind of poo-poo it because there's no check and balance. There's nobody there to say, hey, enough, enough. Well, you have that here. You have that check and balance. You have that mixture of Democrat and Republican independent that our founding fathers wanted. They wanted you to be able to restore the trust by having that natural check and balance. And we don't have it in some states. And it's the other way around in some of the southern states as well. It's flipped. It's all Republicans. It's the same thing. It's not what our founding fathers wanted. So I want to just say thank you for bringing all the media here. You're a real media draw. Congratulations. If I had known, I would have been prepared.
I'll warn you next time.
Good. You warn me next time. So I'm so thankful. As I said, I think I met most everybody. Some people came in late. I'd love you to come over. I brought a certain amount of books for you. I'm going to give a little donation back to Joe after. They're only $10. It's a number 4 in the New York Times. It's a good read. And I want to thank you all for coming. And, God bless. Thank you. Have a great weekend.